All right, welcome everybody to the Coaching Rebellion podcast. My name is Mike Guzman, and today I've got a very special guest with me, one of my former players from San Lorenzo High School, a big part of what, kind of was the catalyst for this. And when I put out the call on social media for, former players, teammates to jump into this project, he was one of the very first ones that raised his hand. So very special welcome, and very excited to have my good friend Carlos Gonzalez here with me. Carlos, thank you for jumping on. And when I first reached out to you, the thing that came from you that got me excited was you're just like, let's go, I'm ready, like name the place, let's do it. And so I wanted to just capitalize on that energy, right? There was a very small window of time for me where I was like, I got to strike while the iron's hot. And I got a lot of people that messaged me. But you were the first one to just go, I'm ready, coach. So that for me personally means a lot. I do appreciate you just, ready to go to battle. And, that's one of the things that I always appreciated about you as a player. You were ready to rock and roll from day one, right? But I'd like to hear a little bit about you, your story, kind of how we met. And if you could just, kind of tell the audience, like, what was that like for you? What was that process? Maybe some fun moments, that came about, and just kind of talk about that.
Yeah, well, I'm glad to be here, Coach, and thank you for having me. It started, in PE class. That's when I first met you. Ms. Flowers was like letting me know, hey, tryouts are coming up, you should try out. Didn't really want to try out, because I had just graduated from Bohannon, where we had a really good team, and most of those players were going to go to Arroyo. They even wanted me to go to Arroyo, but because of where I lived, I had to end up going to San Lorenzo. So I didn't want to try out. You came and you were like, hey, this little kid, I heard you're pretty good. You want to show it on the field or what? And I said, I might, I still wasn't convinced. I don't want to play against Arroyo and be shamed, because I didn't know what the team we had. It was always like, soccer at San Lorenzo, what's that?
Yeah.
They have a team? So, then my dad said, well, you're not going to be playing clubs. It's going to be, it's all high school, so might as well just stay in condition. So I said, all right, give it a shot, went to try out. As tryouts kept going on, I started liking it even more. The dynamics, the teams, just very, also it was very Latin based. So it was my type of environment. And then seeing young players like Victor Benavides, Victor Rodriguez, there too, as freshmen, kind of made me be like, okay, like I can be competing with these guys. And then you have us playing with Rica and Oscar and Juanito and these little freshmen. Had a nice chemistry going on, and that's when I got excited. I was like, okay, like we can play. Let's see what it is. Let's see where it takes us. And then after that, making the team and, having our first game, that right there with your energy. I've never had a coach with energy from the locker room till the end of the game. If we won, if we lost, you were always there. I was like, how does this guy not lose his voice? But it was just there. Come on, guys, keep going. You got it. Push up, push down. And it was just the energy. And I mean, you were very, very trustworthy in us. And the first game, you were like freshmen on all the left. It was nerve-wracking, but that was a really exciting game. And after that, it was just exciting. It was an honor to play for you. One of my best coaches that I've ever had, and I knew that if I played 5 minutes, if I played 10 minutes, if I played 90 minutes, it didn't matter. I was going to give it all for you, just because of that connection that you build with the team and what you did with San Lorenzo.
The thing that sticks out to me is, you talk about starting 3 freshmen. And, I remember during the tryout process, I told myself, I've always been of the mindset that it doesn't matter how old you are, right? If you have the skill set and the talent level, then you can play with anybody, right? Unfortunately, I had run into issues in the past, whether it was other teams or coaches, that would not go down that path. Mm-hmm. They were like, if you were a senior, then just because you're a senior, you get automatic playing time. Yeah. And there was a part of me that always felt like that was unfair, right? And I made that point very loud and clear that, I don't care if you're a senior. You need to earn your spot, right? And if a freshman comes in and knocks you off your spot, you got to work harder, right? And I felt like when that message was relayed, people understood, oh, okay, like this isn't just going to be I'm guaranteed my position, let alone playing time. And that can go one of two ways. It can go south very quickly, and people are like, well, screw you, I'm not going to play for you. Or you're actually going to step up to the challenge. And what we saw was people wanting to step up to the challenge, because there's no way as a senior you're going to let some freshman kid walk in and walk all over your spot, right? So what are you going to do, right? You're getting called out. You're going to want to step up a little bit and step up your game. And then conversely, as a freshman, you're like, well, I want to compete, I want to take on that senior and I want to show him what's up. And you guys did that. And I think having seen that, that's where we saw really this thing kind of take off, right? And the beauty of it was that the whole left side was left-footed, And I was just like, this is the first time I've had this or experienced this, because naturally it's just everything is geared for them to take on that left foot. And then I said, this is going to be something special. I felt it right away. And I don't remember who I was talking to, but I was like, I'm starting all three freshmen on the left. And I got a couple looks like, what? Are you serious? And I'm like, yeah. And I know it's going to work, And when you guys started kind of piecing it together, I was just like, okay. You kind of sit back and just go, I had a feeling. And now watching it like unfold in front of me, it was a thing of beauty. It was really fun to watch. I think not only was it fun to watch, but then as teammates, your teammates kind of started to understand the vision. It's like, well, why would he be starting, a bunch of freshmen? Oh, because they're good enough. Oh, because they have the skill set. Oh, because they're dangerous. Oh, because they're actually kind of lethal when you start piecing things together. And that was a lot of fun to watch. And, fast forwarded a couple seasons and you guys are, getting to a point where you're starting to really make some noise. Talk about that, kind of ascension of the team and where you guys wound up getting to.
Yeah, well, then after that, we had a great season with you. We lost our NCS. It was a tough game, but we knew that we had a team to compete. And we still had a couple of players. We weren't going to lose everyone, so next season it was going to be great. Unfortunately, you left. We got Alex, who rest in peace. It was great. Rica kept being the captain of the ship. We were a little scared. We're like, what's going to happen? Can't be Rose without Coach Mike. Can't do that. You can't have that. But he did a pretty good job. It wasn't the season that we expected to had. I think that was one of the, we didn't really, Coach Mike, us. It was just a bad season. We ended up losing Rica. We ended up losing all our key players. So coming up junior year, we knew that we, the freshmen, we were going to be the Ricas of the world. We were going to be the Betos of the world. We were the Oscars of the world. So that pressure was on us. And not only that, but we were running out of time. We got 2 more years, and we got to do something. We had a bad season. Let's, a year that we got to just not think about. And then after that, we just started, getting more players. It was our senior year, with Coach Ruben. And Coach Ruben, had the same mentality as you guys. That's why you guys worked so great together. It was about, I don't care if you're a senior and a freshman, you're gonna have to work the same way. I remember when I was like, I don't need to go to conditioning because I play club. He was like, well, the club's not here, and if you don't go to conditioning, then you're not gonna make the team. I was like, what do you mean, Coach? I've been in the team for 3 years. He was like, as simple as that. So there I was, and then his expectation was, since you know this and you have condition, you us seniors have to be the first ones. And it was just, it brought again that, okay, like, this is a good coach. He's a former player, so he knows it. So what can we do? And then that season was just an unbelievable season for us, just overall. Even you got to witness some of the games, and we were able to, at the end of the day, put that flag up that we've all been wanting to. That hasn't happened in like over 30 years or something. So that just lifted a weight out of our shoulder.
Yeah. No, I mean, that was an amazing thing to watch, and me leaving was a challenging thing, which is going to lead me kind of into the next, topic, and it's just, you have a small amount of time to play, right? And then from there, it's what's next, and usually it's the continuation of your career into college, and depending on where you're at in life, either you've been kind of shown the path to get to college, or you've been shown the path to, as soon as you graduate, you got to go to work. Real world starts to kick in, right? And so when you know that you've got a small amount of time to make an impact, you have to really just take that personal, and I'm glad that you guys did. I was, very happy to see you guys lift that flag and really just kind of crack the door open for what becomes the evolution of the program, right? When I was playing, I mean, our equipment was terrible. We didn't have what we needed, but we had a big sense of pride, for San Lorenzo. And the team had been handed down from player to player. And so there was always this sense of ownership that we weren't going to let this team down anymore, right? Because it was kind of the stepchild of the school.
Exactly.
Soccer program was like, you guys stay out there, right? We felt disrespected in that regard, and so we took it upon ourselves. We're like, well, we're going to change that, right? And there was the moniker of, once a rebel, always a rebel, and that meant something, right? So if you had anything to do with the program, you came back and you supported if you could. When I left, and Alex, even though he didn't have a lot to do with the program, he was part of the culture, having refereed, local coach at different schools, different programs, youth soccer leagues. So he was still a part of the process, and he filled in at a moment where it was just out of necessity because life happened to, life. Things happen. And so I didn't take that decision lightly, but, if I could do it all over again, I wouldn't have left you guys, because I know what that meant. I took it very personal. I took it very emotionally. It was a challenge for me to just walk away, knowing that there was a great potential there. And I felt like I was the one responsible for trying to get you guys to that next level. And it was a disservice to you guys to just pull the plug, right? But at the end of the day, it is what it is, right? And you guys still have to live your life. You guys still had to do what you had to do. And then Ruben comes in and ratchets up the intensity again. And again, former player, so he understood the mindset. He understood the mentality of what it meant to come in and really get the most out of you guys. And so when you guys finally, crack that door open, like I said, and you get the banner, you really cracked the door open for a lot of what we struggled with, which was we couldn't get to that final step. Right? So that was a thing of beauty. There was a lot of emotion that day when I saw that, that final whistle blow, and I was like, oh man, not only was it a monkey off for you guys' back, but us as former players, there's just that sense of pride, like, hell yeah, like we finally got it done. And whether you played a small piece or a big piece, like, that was big.
Yeah.
Right? And I think that's part of the reason why I wanted to start this whole thing, was talk about past memories, because they're such important parts of our lives, but also kind of talk about the detours in life. I myself having to leave you guys, that was challenging, right? That was life saying, hey, you gotta get your stuff figured out. You got to take care of your family. You got to do what you got to do. And just the time that I wanted to commit to you guys wasn't there. So we all have these detours in life that we have to navigate. But, I always go back to those moments in time as a coach, as a player, and those times for me always bring a lot of joy. For you, is there anything that sticks out in your mind as a player besides cracking the door open, which, I mean, that's big, right? But are there memories that you have from your playing days that you just, will always kind of stick with you?
Well, a lot. Well, first of all, to piggyback on what you said, we were the stepchild. We didn't get nothing. They didn't really care about us, and it was just nice to see the evolution of that. Coming in, you would see just that just one bench, because it was just family and friends that would come in to see San Lorenzo. To our junior, where we started making noise, and in our senior year, it turned into a whole lot of benches. And not only families were coming, teachers were supporting, other schools were coming to see San Lorenzo play, because we want to see what's all the noise. So it was just nice to see like the whole side of just like, what? Look at this. This is what we did. This is what we created. And it takes me back to probably the most memorable game that I personally had, and it was that last season game against one of our arch rivals, Hayward, which was always that team that we just couldn't beat. It was always something. And this was our time to, win the title and get our revenge. And how more better could it be to win the title beating Hayward? And then, Ruben in the locker room, he was like, I'm not going to give a 10-minute speech. You guys know what to do. It's on your hands. You've been doing it the whole season. Just go out there and do what you guys do. And that game, Benavides scored first. I scored second. Victor scored. Rodriguez, and then Victor Cuevas scored. And it was all of us four, who grew up since the start. And Victor Cuevas came later on. But we beat Hayward 4-0 with our people. And we got the title. It was just like the perfect ending to that season.
The storybook ending.
Yes.
Literally the storybook ending, right?
And then we went on to play NCS, and we advanced, and then we got there, and then little Victor scored that last minute goal, and the whole stands just went there. We dog pile. It was intense. But then that's where you understand that it's NCS. Our time's coming to an end, guys. The next game could be it. We don't want it to be, but it's gonna come. And you don't realize that until it's like your senior year, and we don't know. Everybody talks about it all the time, but you're just like,
it's not gonna happen.
It's another game. It's not gonna happen. But you realize that, and it's like the whistle blows, and we lost NCS, and it was just like sad because it was all over.
It's a bittersweet time in life, right? Sport can be such a beautiful thing, but also such a vicious thing too. I've seen people that have had all the talent in the world and not able to use it. And then I've had, encounters with people that didn't necessarily have the most talent, and somehow they made something out of it, right? Injuries, you name it.
Grades, sometimes.
Grades, right? I can't tell you, every season that I coached, every season that I played, we always lost 2 or 3 critical players. And it was just, you always go back to what if, right? What if we would have had our entire team? What if we would have just, stuck together and not let that one game be the defining factor if we lost? And that's, part of, this whole podcast idea is, you get to go back to those times and you ask those questions, I know I ask myself all the time as a player with all the experiences that I've had, like, what if in that one game, you know what I mean? If I would have taken one less touch, or what if I would have shot that ball with my left foot instead of my right? All these outcomes and things that you just kind of like, man, there's always something there that's just unresolved for you. In the back of my head, I'm like, damn it, the stuff that, like, as a goalkeeper, I always say that there's nightmare fuel for goalkeepers, because there's a lot of pressure as a goalie to perform. You get one goal scored on you and it changes the whole season. That's a lot for the goalie to carry, right? So goalkeeping in and of itself is not an easy position, because mentally you've got to be a little bit more firm in your, your decisions, but also understanding the repercussions, right? And you got to have some thick skin because, man, like I've seen keepers fall apart, and 2 or 3 goals in a game, and then the whole team is down, and all of a sudden things just start falling apart, right? But sport can be, a very beautiful thing. I think the game of soccer in and of itself, similar to life, it has its ups and downs, it has its challenges. There's moments where you've got to make a decision right away, and you don't know what that decision is going to mean for you afterwards. And I think part of what I also want to bring out of this process is, as I talk to former players and former teammates, I want to expand this to people that I've had the opportunity to impact, whether it's in just life in general, as coworkers. There's so much that we can unpack, and just the ability to tell the stories.
Yeah.
I feel like we've reached a point in this day and age where we see former athletes starting to jump into media now. You're starting to see that first evolution of your favorite players that you grew up watching really start to take on prominent roles in this kind of new space of new media, right? I watch, stuff like Matt Barnes, with All the Smoke, and I see the stories that these guys are telling, and it's stuff that you would have never heard about. How a player was, behind the scenes, or funny moments, or challenging moments, and I feel like we have that stuff too, We've got our own stories to tell, and I want to be able to really just bring that stuff to the forefront, because I think there's a lot of value in preserving, what we've experienced over time, and then also just the follow-up, right? Whatever happened to such and such player. I remember reading a couple years back about a former player that I coached that had passed away. Very tragic story, and it was heartbreaking. I'm like, there's no way, And when I read that, I was heartbroken to hear. And it's just, again, life can all of a sudden take a turn. And I don't want years to pass and not have the ability to still share these stories, because they're such a pivotal, part of our lives. For me, I look back at all those moments and I'm like, that was a big chunk of my life, and I still want to be able to have that impact on people. Not to say that I have a gift, but I've always felt my most authentic self is when I'm able to help someone, whether it's showing them the way to do something or guiding them along, and just having a conversation, right? I can think back to many times where, even as far back as elementary school, like the most pivotal people that played an impact in my life were coaches, right? And the first experience that I had where somebody saw something in me was we had at Garfield Elementary in San Leandro, there was this gentleman by the name of Jim Gorey, and this dude was just this, like something out of a movie, right? The dude wore these suits, impeccable boots, this hat. I think he was from Texas, if I'm not mistaken. I could be wrong on that. But, just this like larger than life person. And it was like 3rd or 4th grade, and we used to have this summer camp at the school, and he had this accent that I could just never forget. I'm Jim Gorey, and you're going to respect me. And he was very about business, right? You didn't disrespect the man. You didn't, he taught you what it meant to show respect for your elders. But he was also very genuine. He was very authentic, and he was very protective of his kids, right? He didn't let anything happen at that school to his kids. And that's kind of how I was exposed to somebody that showed interest in me. And was like, he told me, he's like, you're going to be one of my leaders. I was like, what? What are you talking about? He's like, yeah, my summer program. He's like, you're going to be one of my leaders. And I'll never forget that. And And then that carried on. So my next experience was Miss Michaels, PE teacher. And then after that, it was Mr. Nelson, PE teacher, and Mr. Vaith. And then it just continues on. And then I go to San Lorenzo and Coach K. I don't know if you experienced Coach K. Coach K was amazing, and then Versino. And then I'm just like, okay, all these coaches were really the ones that had the most impact in my life. So for you, we're here at the Duck Pond, but now it's been, named after a very famous coach in our community, Omar Rodriguez. You got a chance to play for him, right? I mean, what does that mean for you? Are there any coaches that you have, encountered over time that have had an impact on you?
Yeah, with Coach G,
Ajit, yes.
G, of course, Omar Rodriguez. Just those coaches that continue to check up, and you showed you, a father figure in the field, and I think that coaches are very, very important, which is also why I, stopped playing for some circumstances. But I was like, I need to continue the San Lorenzo team going. It just can't be it. But nobody was doing it, and I just kept hearing the voice in my head. And it's like, oh, I'm the one got to do it. That's what's happening. I'm the one that has to do it. It's the calling.
Yeah.
And then,
That's it, the calling.
The calling, yeah. Nobody else is getting it but me, so I got to do it. So
but
now,
that's special.
Yeah.
I'm actually glad that you mentioned that, because there's something about that, right? All of a sudden, it's like, what is happening right now? Why am I the one being tasked with this? And I couldn't figure it out, but I look back and I'm like, I've always been the one that just kind of, come on, let's go. You know what I mean? Like Juan Pablo over here right now with his kids. Like, I went to go coach my daughter, or not coach my daughter. I went to go have my daughter play soccer so I could watch her play. And after 3 practices, I took over the team. And then he happens to show up a season later. I'm like, dude, or no, it might have been that same season. I was like, dude, bring your kid. And all of a sudden, I'm like, wait, what is happening? What just happened right now? 3 seasons later, and I'm like, wait, what? So it is a calling, right? So tell me more about that whole process for you.
Yeah, well, it was, graduated high school, went to college, but it wasn't the same. I missed it. People went to work, people didn't go to college, people had kids, had their lives. So, but I missed playing with my group of guys, the ones you share the locker room with, the ones that were fighting there on the field. So I was like, you know what, let's just go to that 4v4 San Jose Earthquakes tournament. Let's just gather a few players, the ones that play. And after that, I was like, oh no, this has to keep going. Yeah. And then I started researching more tournaments, started researching Palladium. Let's get a team together. Let's get more people, get Oscar in, Juanito in, Messi in,
Messi.
Cuevas. And I was like, okay, now it feels like San Lorenzo all over again. Even though we're not the same quality, but we were fighting as a team because they had that spirit. And after that, it's been like, almost 8 years. Now I'm coaching them. And it's just nice because you start seeing they're having kids, and it's more to it. People have lives, people are going through things, and to be able to just give them that opportunity of like every Thursday, I'm just gonna play soccer with my boys. I'm gonna have that cold beer with my boys, and all my problems, all my issues that I have in life are going to be put to pause because I have this game to win, I have this game to focus, and I'm able to do that for all my players. And I think that helps them a lot too. We're able to talk about the game, talk about challenges that we have, help one another, so that's the only reason why I continue to do it.
That's awesome, man. And, there's a level of mutual respect hearing that from you because, again, as a coach, you look at the intangibles of what somebody brings to the field, right? And so when I met you guys, I understood that you guys had a skill set that was going to work, right? But there were other qualities too that I saw. There was a maturity aspect when I met you that for a freshman was not normal, right? So you were mentally a little bit further ahead than what your traditional freshman was. And I saw that and I said, this kid's going to go places, right? And I always look at, what is it that, makes somebody want to go down this path of, coaching? And you brought up a lot of great points, but I think the biggest one is you want to just keep people together, right? And bringing people together is key when you're on a team. When you're on a team, sometimes it's just everybody kind of goes their way, you know what I mean? And you don't have that chemistry. But you guys always had that glue, and you were a big catalyst for that. You know, I remember you telling me that you didn't want to play initially, right? And I'm like, could you imagine had you not played?
Yeah.
What you would have missed out on, right? And so that's always the message. It's like, you get 4 years of high school, go take advantage. What happens after that happens. But at least give yourself that opportunity, right? If you could tell your former self something, your freshman self something, now looking back, what would you tell that player?
And play every game like if it was the last one, you know, and really, to your point, I took it serious, but how could I take it even more serious, where I would be doing my own videos during the games, you know, and really, you know, going to college campuses and, you know, seeing them play and getting that connection. I think that we all think that it's just magically going to happen, that we just think, oh, well, after high school, college is going to come up and swoop me up, and I'm going to then become a pro, and I'm going to make a lot of money. You know, I think that's our mentality. Yeah. So a little bit more of that, you know, engagement, that focus, you know, taking harder classes, you know, education is very key in here, you know. We think that just because of our skill, which in most cases it is, you're going to go play college. But no, also the education piece comes into play, you know, and I think that would, how could I have helped my teammates more so we don't lose those good players? I was always a 4.0 student, so how could I have helped them more? Yeah. You know, get those, like, hey, we're going to have a study class, you know, we're going to all do homework together. Yeah. So we don't miss those opportunities, you know. Yeah. That's what I probably would do better.
It's good advice, you know. I myself, I remember the transition to high school was a bit of a challenge for me because I wound up moving after middle school. I was actually supposed to go to San Leandro High. And I remember I ran track in middle school, and I remember getting a call from the track and field coach at San Leandro High, and he was like, hey, we're getting ready to start, you know, training, et cetera, and like 2 or 3 days later, like, we're moving. And I'm thinking, wait, what just happened? You know, so everybody that I had gone to school with and that I grew up with, all of a sudden it was just like somebody took a knife and said, nope, this is over. And so I had to deal with this new reality and transitioning schools to somewhere I didn't know, even though it was just the next city over. Yeah. But you know what I mean? There was nobody there that I knew. Yeah. You know, I had to, like, forge this new identity amongst people that, again, you know, they've probably all been going to the same school with each other. They've carried over from, you know, elementary and middle school into high school. And my freshman year, my dad didn't let me play because my grades weren't good enough. I wasn't focused. Sophomore year was a bit of a challenge too, you know. And it wasn't because I wasn't a good student. It's just I wasn't focused on the right things. And so I told myself, I was like, there's no way I'm going to screw this up for my junior and senior year. So realistically, I only played 2 years, my junior and my senior year. Fantastic seasons. Didn't end how I wanted them to, but I was able to prove to my peers that I was good enough. And for me, that meant a lot. And again, similar to the team that you played with, we were right there, man. And now I'm like, what would I have told myself? Don't screw it up from the beginning, man. You burned 2 years, you know what I mean? Had you been there from the get-go, I think I would have probably made a case to start over whoever else the goalkeeper was at that time, regardless of what anybody says, because I've always felt that level of accountability to myself. It's not gloating, it's just I'm confident in my skill set, right? And like, that's one thing that I would in a minute go back and be like, dude, get it together. Play your 4 years. Don't be a dumbass and, waste 2 years of your life wondering what would have happened. Because had that been the key, I think we would. And there were some monsters on that team my freshman and sophomore year, and all I could do was watch. And I'm like, oh man, I wish I would have been able to play with those guys.
Yeah.
So good advice. Don't screw it up. Take it serious. All right, because you don't get those years back. What's one thing that either presented a challenge in your life, and it doesn't have to be that, coaching or sport guided you through it, but I think as an athlete, we're wired a little bit differently. So was there anything in your life that you really had to take that athletic mindset or that athlete's mindset to really get through a challenging time? You don't have to get into too much detail if you don't want to, but I know I've gone through my own personal, battles and have had to really channel the inner athlete, because that's at the end of the day what I feel I am and always will be. But was there anything in your life that you've had to endure or encounter that?
Well, yeah, having to hang my cleats up because of a medical condition. I was playing with my team, with the guys, but I knew there was something that was not right.
Yeah.
I wasn't playing the same way I was playing. My back was hurting, and at first I thought it was just age. I was like, I'm getting old, but I was like, but none of these have that issue. What's going on? Long story short, I had infection in my colon, which I had to get surgery, which I had to get 8 inches of my colon removed.
Wow.
And I had a colostomy bag for a whole year, so that right there was just life changing for me, because I don't get to play soccer, which is what brings me happiness. And now I'm living thinking about if I'm going to be able to have a job, during the time of my surgery, because it was all just like, go to the hospital, okay, we're going to do a checkup, something's wrong, we're going to stay here, we're going to monitor you for 4 days, and then we're going to make our decision. I had just got promoted to my job.
Yeah.
I had just gotten engaged a month ago.
Oh, man.
So it was all just like, what the hell just happened? I just, I'm the type of person that's very positive. I always see the glass half full, and I didn't believe at the time that depression was a thing.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, that's just the mindset. You just go wake up and just say, hey, I'm glad to be here another day. What do you mean depression?
Yeah.
But that right there, depression hit me. Am I going to lose my wife or my fiance? Am I going to have my job? I can't play soccer. And now I have to, go to the bathroom from this bag. How that changed my life, Thankfully, I have an amazing wife that supported me through it. And, my job was, respected that I had to go through this. But it was just a year of life change for me, because even just, I had no control of it. I went to the bathroom whenever it decided to go. I passed gas whenever I wanted to go. So, in my role, I'm in meetings, and all of a sudden, I fart. And, people knew, but it's still a shock, just being in elevators, anywhere I went, it was so traumatizing. Like, can we just open the door and get out?
Yeah.
If something happens, then people don't know.
Yeah.
Going out to dinners, it was like, can I eat this? Am I gonna have to go to the bathroom? Because if I do, then it's just a process.
Yeah.
So that right there was very challenging for me, which is why I continue to coach my team, because I have that. Now it's all over, so thank God it's over. I got focused. I said, what the hell am I doing with my life? Like, I almost died. What am I doing with my life? I got to get my stuff together.
Yeah.
Bought a house. I said, what, I'm gonna buy a house. I'm gonna marry this woman because she was there for me.
Yeah.
Had my daughter. Still have my team. So that to me was probably the biggest upset. And I go to the fields, and people always ask, hey man, you were so good, why you stop playing, or why are you not out there? And I'm just like, I enjoy the game, coaching now. Which is I do.
Yeah. I appreciate you opening up on stuff like that, and I can't even begin to imagine what you had to go through, even hearing it from you, it sounds surreal,
Mm-hmm.
and, those are the little things that we take for granted that, again, at a moment's notice, life can really do some crazy things to you, and you mentioned having a support system. You mentioned, people understanding, right, and realizing that we're going through something and that things were going to be okay, right? But depression, right, it's a serious thing. If somebody tells you that they've never been depressed, I think, they're BSing. Everybody goes through it. The question is, how do you deal with it? How do you handle it? And for some people, they don't know how to, right? For others, they're fortunate enough to be around people that can guide them. But for those that don't, and I think that's really, something that I wanted to tap into, is sometimes people do not have the support systems that they need. And I think as former athletes, former players, former coaches, or I'm still a coach. You're still a coach. I think there's a sense of responsibility too to check in on our former, friends when we have that calling, because you brought that up earlier, and I share that. Or I just want to make sure that people are good. I don't know why this has happened, where, again, I'll go somewhere and before I know it, I'm in a full-blown conversation with someone talking about life or, challenges that they may have had, or, it just happens all the time. And I can't do anything about that. And I have to accept that and go, I'm going to find a way to channel this into positivity so that when people are struggling, they know they can pick up the phone or call or message when they may not have anybody else, right? So that's also a big reason why I wanted to kind of do this, because there's so many of us that we've encountered over the years, and everybody's gone through something. And even in private conversations that I've had, I won't go into detail, but I know that people have gone through things and just have not had that support system. And part of me feels like I've shortchanged people because I haven't made myself available, right? And also through my own trials and tribulations, right? Like, who do I go to? Who do I trust enough that's actually going to have my best interest and go, I'm there for you. I'm willing to help you. I'm willing to listen. And I'm willing to give you advice if you're willing to, sit down and have the conversation. All right, so Carlos, I really appreciate you jumping on and helping me with this project. Again, really the big message is just, for people out there that are going through things, take this back to your community too, because you got that calling, just like myself. And, let's see if we can impact people's lives, show positivity. And whenever somebody is in need of help, just showing them that, there are people that have gone through it. You get the bragging rights. You get to be the first one to say, hey, man, I was on Coach Mike's, podcast. And again, who knows where this thing is going to go, but I really appreciate you taking the time out of your day, spending some time with me and kind of going over some old times. Means a lot to me, and I really do wish you the best. So we'll be in touch. We'll continue to cheer on your group and you guys just won a championship too. So shout out to those guys, man, back to back. Way to keep it going. But that's big, man. So I appreciate your time.
It was a pleasure. Thank you, Coach.
Thank you. Appreciate it. All right, folks. That's it. Coaching Rebellion. Stay tuned for the next episode where we've got more guests, more former players, and we're going to see some fun stuff happen. So appreciate you guys tuning in. Have a good one.